Firstly, he came into politics as a very young man in terms of PNG politics, because most of the people that were there were much, much older than him. So I guess he was fresh, straight as a businessman into politics, and people just weren't too sure what he was going to bring to the table. And when he started doing the work, and when he started becoming influential, people who were already there in politics started taking note. And he proved to be a force to be reckoned with. And that was the kind of person that Sam Bussell was. He brought together people. He challenged obstacles that were, seemingly impossible. He spent a fair deal of time in the opposition as part of a two-man opposition bench, himself and Belden Nama. So he never said, quite a difficult person to convince that there are obstacles in front of you.
How has news of his death been received in the community?
People have taken it pretty hard. In his village in Buang, where he lives there in his village and comes to town to work and then goes to Port Moresby, but always returns home. He spends a lot of time in the district, and he's, a working politician. He's always on the ground, building roads, delivering medicines. It's like he's a almost stereotypical PNG politician who is always in front delivering services. But, I asked him once why he did that. And he said, it's because the government system, the administration doesn't work, the bureaucracy doesn't work. That's why I had to do it myself. And people in his village have been, and generally in Morobe have been taking this news very hard. Yesterday, I was in front of his residence in Ley. People had already gathered at about 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. There was another crowd at the funeral home where his body was being held. And there was I think there was a post-mortem that was carried out yesterday. I'm yet to confirm that. But the men, women, and children there crying with mud on their faces and all that. So it's, they've taken it very hard.
What more do we know about the accident and what happened?
Details are sketchy at the moment. The person who was driving the other vehicle is alive and has been arrested for dangerous driving. Unfortunately, his name's come out, and people have, issued veiled threats here and there. So I've also advised people who have tried to put out the names of the driver, now just hold back. You're putting that person in danger. So he's been arrested by police. Police have released a statement on that arrest, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next few days, but an investigation is ongoing.
And Scott, there has been some uncertainty about whether this will delay the upcoming election. How might the timeline be affected?
1 week, 2 weeks at the most, but it won't have as much of an impact. I think the concern was that if the government tried to rush it, or the Electoral Commission tried to rush it, people would see it as very disrespectful. So that's the narrative in the background, and also amongst Morobeans and people in Bulolo. They're not too keen on seeing the nomination period rush through as Mr. Bussell is still in the funeral home.
Well, PNG elections involve incredible logistics in tallying votes across isolated and hard-to-reach villages. How are preparations going?
Yes, logistics is a big problem, and it always has been. And that was one of the things that made Sam Bussell stood out, because he actually walked all over his district. Wherever there was a road, whenever the road ended, he would get off the vehicle and walk. So he went to almost every village in his district. That's the challenge that the Electoral Commission is facing at every election. And to get ballot boxes to places where people can vote is a logistical nightmare, as always. Always there's a budget shortfall, and every election there's problems that people encounter.
Well, the last election 5 years ago failed to see a single woman voted into Parliament, despite there being many female candidates. Has there been any effort to address that this time?
There's a lot of discussion around getting more women into Parliament, but Papua New Guinea is still on a development path. I keep saying that we're trying to do everything as per the Westminster system requirements in a space of 50 years, half a century. So it's a difficult challenge to force this thing to happen. There are a lot more women who've put their hand up to run. It's very encouraging. Parties have stood up and said, we're going to endorse women. The women themselves have come out and said, we are going to run, and even if we lose, we're making a statement that the next election will come back.
What will voters be most concerned about when they eventually go to the polls? What are the main issues that are being debated?
It's the usual health, education, infrastructure, and increasingly it's the price of fuel for urban dwellers. In rural areas, it's a difficult place to be during elections because people will still vote along tribal lines. So, yeah.
Scott Wide, thank you so much.